Can armed federal agents appear at polling places? This hearing tackled that question head on.
As the nation's chief law enforcement official, do you agree that it is unacceptable for federal agents to forcibly enter someone's home without a warrant and drag them onto the street without even checking that they have the right person?
Well, it depends on the circumstances, as you know. I mean, yes, obviously, law enforcement agents need a warrant to enter a house, except for limited exceptions to that. So yes, we very much believe in the constitutional protections afforded American citizens. The same protections are not afforded people who are here illegally. So it's not a black and white answer where I can say yes or no. But yes, I very much expect the law to be followed by our law enforcement agents.
So since the Civil War, along those lines, federal law has made it clear that the president does not have the authority to deploy armed federal officials to election sites. Will you commit to following clear federal law and not deploying federal agents to polling locations?
I will commit to following the law, Senator, of course.
Okay,
Yes.
but does that include not deploying federal agents to polling places?
I will absolutely follow the law no matter what it includes. So yes.
Do you understand why voters, U.S. citizens, are concerned about armed agents at polling places?
I'm not aware of armed agents being at polling places.
Thank you.
I'm not aware of that concern, but I will tell you we will follow the law, Senator.
All right. The DOJ has carried out a campaign to push states to turn over voters' sensitive and private data to the administration. 30 states, including Republican-led states like Georgia and West Virginia, have refused. In doing so, the West Virginian Republican Secretary of State said, quote, "I will not break the law, give up our state's rights, or compromise the privacy of our citizens." 15 federal courts in decisions from Democratic and Republican appointed judges have all found that these actions to force the states to turn over this data is unlawful. Could you discuss how cutting off anti-terrorism funding to states that refuse something that 15 federal courts have found to be illegal enhances our national security?
So those cases are still being litigated, so I can't talk specifically about the cases that you mentioned, but overall, what I will say, Senator, is that election integrity is extraordinarily important to this administration. It's important to this body. And so to the extent that the work that we're doing is to make sure that we have fair and honest elections, that the only people voting are the people who are eligible to vote, and that they're only voting once, that's important.
If secure elections is important, how does stopping the long-standing practice of critical information sharing and scenario planning between the DOJ, other federal agencies, and state and local election officials promote election security? Because we have heard from our own Secretary of State that Steve Simon that the standard briefings trainings have not happened.
We're not doing that, so I'm not sure what you're referring to, but I'm happy to follow up with your office about that.
Appreciate that. So you and I talked about some of the antitrust concerns I have, the independence of the department. I was very concerned by the department's weak settlement of the monopolization suit against Nation Ticketmaster. Do you believe that this settlement was good for consumers? And if so, then why didn't, there was another case, of course, that the state attorney general's brought that is going to result in much better protections for consumers. Why didn't the DOJ join them, stay in that suit?
I share your concerns, and yes, I do believe that settlement was good for consumers. The American people got a lot out of that settlement with Live Nation, and you talk about another case that's separate. That's ongoing litigation that could potentially take years to resolve. And so, when we make a decision as a department to settle a case, we are only thinking about the American consumer and making sure that we're complying not only with the laws but with what's right for.
Did the White House have any involvement in that decision?
In the decision regarding which case?
To settle the Ticketmaster case.
We work at times closely with White House counsel on certain issues. I am sure that I wasn't directly part of discussions, but so I can't speak to that, but I'm most certainly not saying they were not part of it.
So, okay. Are you concerned that former Republican Principal Deputy Assistant Attorney General Roger Alford, who has appeared before this committee as a Republican witness in the past, has said that in your department, antitrust cases are being resolved based on political connections, not the legal merits?
No, his words don't concern me because they're not true.
Well, a lot of us disagree on that front. So I want to turn to some sort of number of issues involving security. So in the wake of the shooting last year, Annunciation Catholic School was approved to receive funding through the Office for Victims of Crime for mental health and other support services. And I appreciate that the department has worked closely with the Annunciation community on this issue. But the delays in the release of these funds are creating budget concerns. Could you commit to work with me on getting those funds to the school?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. The president's most recent budget reduces COPS office funding by nearly $500 million, eliminates the Stop School Violence program that I championed with Senator Hatch. He was the lead on it. Are you concerned that cutting this funding will impact school safety?
No, we have. I understand the question. I fully expect that the grants that ultimately are included in the budget that's passed will make sure that we're providing appropriate funds to our communities so that they can continue their good work.
I have concerns about, and I've heard this from several law enforcement and domestic violence groups, about the DOJ plan to consolidate the COPS program, HIDA program, Office on Violence Against Women. And why do you think this will be helpful? Because we believe that they have very different functions.
I agree with you. That's not what we're doing. There will still be three separate functions. What we're doing is consolidating above them to one group so that the application process is smoother and easier for grantees to do their work, and also so that internally some of the bureaucracy that was involved in having three separate bureaucratic streams doing the same work, even though you're right, the underlying programs serve different functions, was not efficient, so we're making that efficient.
And I'll follow up with you with some of the domestic violence grants, and also just want to mention the continued enforcement under the Take It Down Act that Senator Cruz and I passed and how important that is going forward.
A Senate Judiciary hearing turned into a sharp debate over election security, federal law enforcement, and voting rights as Senator Amy Klobuchar questioned Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche about the Justice Department's authority and its role in future elections. The hearing began with Klobuchar highlighting cooperation between federal, state, and local law enforcement following several tragic shootings, while also emphasizing the importance of continued information sharing between agencies. Blanche agreed that investigations should involve appropriate cooperation and pledged to continue working with state and local officials where the law allows. The questioning quickly shifted to election integrity, where Klobuchar raised concerns about whether armed federal agents could ever be deployed to polling places. Citing long-standing federal law, she asked Blanche to commit that the Department of Justice would not station armed agents at election sites. Blanche repeatedly responded that he would follow the law, but stopped short of directly addressing the hypothetical before ultimately affirming that the department would comply with all legal requirements. Klobuchar also questioned the Justice Department's request for sensitive voter data from states, noting that multiple states, including several led by Republicans, and numerous federal courts had rejected aspects of those efforts. Blanche defended the administration's focus on election integrity, arguing that ensuring only eligible voters cast ballots remains a priority while declining to discuss ongoing litigation. The hearing later expanded into issues involving antitrust enforcement, school safety funding, consumer protections, and Justice Department grant programs. Klobuchar questioned the department's settlement involving Live Nation and Ticketmaster, asked about support for victims of violent crime, and raised concerns about proposed funding reductions affecting local law enforcement and school safety in it.